I'm a big fan of the Witcher games. I mean, if you weren't sure already or if you don't believe me, I can prove it. You ready? I'm a fully grown man with a wife and a child, and I own a sword. Who on earth needs to own a sword? A fan of the Witcher games, I'm sure. If you want to hear the story of how I got it and what that sword is a replica of and everything, I'll have the video linked in my description box below the like button, where I talk about it over on my second channel, where I live stream and post stream clips and highlights and stuff. Pretty much anything that doesn't fit on this main channel. So if you're interested, check it out. Links below. At least if somebody watches that video, I can feel somewhat validated in buying a freaking sword as an adult man. But the reason I mention this is because we just got some major news with regards to the Witcher franchise and Cyberpunk as a franchise, and pretty much everything else that CD Projekt Red could possibly work on over the next 6 years or so. It started with a big video that they published that weirdly doesn't have very many views, even though it's been out for like 6 hours or something at the point where I'm filming this video. So I don't know why more people haven't watched it. I watched the entire thing through, and I'm going to give you the details, which are also outlined in this Twitter thread that they put up as well. The first thing they announced was a project codenamed Orion, which, by the way, is it a codename if you're announcing it publicly, like as a thing? Like, this is codename Orion. Well, it's not really a codename. We don't know what the official name. It's more of like a placeholder. I don't know. I thought it was weird that they called it a codename, but I'll just continue. But anyway, they say Project Orion is the next Cyberpunk game. It will take the Cyberpunk franchise further and continue to harness the potential of this dark future universe. We know basically nothing else about this. They just said they're working on it. Of course, it's coming down the line. It's not the next game to release, but it's coming at some point in the future. The next thing they mention is the Witcher Polaris, which is a codename for the next installment of the Witcher series, which we recently announced was in pre-production. It is the beginning of a new saga. We aim to release 2 more Witcher games after Polaris, creating a new AAA RPG. This is something that we've all been really, really hyped for, because with The Witcher 3, we saw the end of Geralt's storyline, and that of course brings up lots of questions as to what they're doing next. Are we going to get a whole trilogy dedicated to Ciri? Are we going to get a trilogy, as some people have rumored, where it's all like make your own Witcher, sort of Skyrim-esque, where you have a character creator and everything and you just do whatever you want? We don't really know yet, and I'm not sure they know, and especially after Cyberpunk 2077, the announcements they've made for what they want to try to do, I wouldn't put too much weight into them. I would take it with a big old grain of salt, because things can change. These games take years to develop, and over the course of development, sometimes they change their mind and decide to do something in one way over another. So just because they've said certain things, I wouldn't like take it as gospel. But what we do know is that they're working on another Witcher trilogy, and it's going to be crafted with the new Unreal Engine 5, and I'm pumped. It's going to be interesting. They go on to announce Canis Majoris, which is a full-fledged Witcher game separate to the new Witcher saga, starting with Polaris, and it will be developed by an external studio headed by experienced developers who have worked on past Witcher games. This is probably the most interesting thing to me, because this has a lot of possible implications, and it's not really clear what they mean by this. Like, my initial knee-jerk reaction is that this gives me Fallout New Vegas vibes. This makes me think, okay, well, we're setting up another studio to do sort of a more narrow, focused title that's not as expansive as the other Witcher games, but offers something to more hardcore fans, or to fans that won't be completely satisfied with the big expansive games that take way longer to make. That's what this makes me think of. But again, we don't know many details, but if I had to put money on it, I would guess it's something like that, or similarly, something like Assassin's Creed Mirage, where they're trying to focus on one particular group of players, make them very satisfied with the game, while everybody else might be a little, I don't like stealth stuff. They're just trying to satisfy this small group of players. That's what this makes me think of. They also announced The Witcher series, which is a code name for the game being developed by Molasses Flood, who they recently acquired. In case you missed it, these are the guys that created The Flame in the Flood and Drake Hollow. I've never played those. I don't really know what those games are. They're cutesy and they look fun, but I have no idea what those games are. So that's all. But of course, if you've played those games, I would love to hear what you think about them. So let me know in the comments if they're good and worth trying. Maybe we'll try them on stream. I don't know. They say that this game will differ from our past productions, offering multiplayer gameplay on top of a single player experience, including a campaign with quests and a story. again, this just gives me vibes of like a small spin-off that's trying to do something a little bit different, appeal to a smaller niche, but not necessarily everybody. And then lastly, they announced Project Hadar, which is codenamed for a third entirely distinct IP created from scratch within CDPR. The project is in the earliest stages of the creative process, which means we are not developing any game yet, but working exclusively on the foundation for this new setting. And if you have any questions as to how long that might take, just remember that they released the original Cyberpunk 2077 trailer on January 10th of 2013. So it can take a while from when you know you're starting work on a game and when it actually comes out. Just, keep your expectations in check. And then in the video, of course, they touch on a few other things. They mention that they're working on improving their pipeline for quicker development, making sure they can create all these games across multiple platforms all at the same time, implementing multiplayer, things they haven't really done before. And then also they mentioned that they aim for all of these games to release within about 6 years from when Polaris launches, which is their next game by most accounts. So that's aggressive. Especially coming off of Cyberpunk 2077, I think a lot of us are very skeptical as to what they can practically achieve. Cyberpunk was in development basically from 2016 through 2020. Most accounts say that it was probably closer to more like 2017 through 2020. But, development on The Witcher 3 and its DLC ended in 2016. So I don't know what they were doing for like a year if that's not the case. But regardless, I think there's reason to be skeptical that they could pull off all of this in a new engine with all new tech, opening multiple studios. I'm a little skeptical, but I would love to be proved wrong. I think this is really important, and I've been pushing the idea of healthy skepticism on this channel because I just don't see it often enough in the video game industry. It seems like we're either hyped up and fanboys on one side, or we are just like the most pessimistic, cynical jerks on the planet, and we don't forget anything, and nobody can ever do anything right. And I think there's room in the middle. Imagine that, where we can look at something like this and say, hey, this is exciting. I like seeing that there's Witcher stuff in development. I like to see that there's another Cyberpunk game coming out. I like to see that the Cyberpunk DLC is still on track. That stuff is really, really exciting, but you're going to have to prove it to me, because what you did last time around was like borderline criminal. I mean, like straight up, they just hid the PlayStation 4 version of Cyberpunk 2077 from the public and still accepted money for it. And it was just like, it was broken. It would be like buying a car without any wheels. And yet already people are like, yeah, I think I'm willing to forgive them. No. They made a lot of progress with Cyberpunk 2077, but like, don't act like all of a sudden all of their ills and crimes are forgiven because they patched something a few times. You can appreciate Cyberpunk 2077 as it stands. That does not mean that they're excused from everything they did before. But there was one thing that was noticeably absent from this whole announcement and all of the stuff that they've put out, at least as of the time of this recording. And that is the next gen update for The Witcher 3. It's slated for this year, but they haven't shown anything about it. We don't know what it looks like, how improved it is, if it's an actual upgrade. We don't know really anything about it. And it's like, the year's coming to a close pretty quickly. We got like 2.5, 3 months for them to realistically drop it. So that was weird. I get asked all the time on stream. People pop in and they're like, hey, it came from like your Assassin's Creed videos. I'm like, oh, cool. And they're like, the first question they always ask, why do you think we haven't seen any Assassin's Creed Mirage gameplay? That's really weird to me. If a game is slated or some big project is set for release in the next like 6 months, whenever you don't see gameplay or the product itself, you should be skeptical. You should be like, why on earth are you accepting money for this when you don't even have the product to show me? Or you're nervous to show me because you think if I saw it, I wouldn't want to buy the product anymore. Like red flags. It's weird. It's weird. And the fact that we haven't seen anything for the Witcher 3 next gen update is worrisome. My understanding is that the thing will be free. It's just a download that you'll get if you have it already purchased, which is awesome. If they end up charging for it, They better have something to show relatively soon, because it's getting weird that we haven't seen anything about it. And look, let me be clear. I think that this level of transparency is refreshing, and I think it's really good for the industry, and it's really good for CD Projekt Red, full stop, especially after their last game. More light shed on what's going on behind the scenes is definitely a better thing. But in terms of actual analysis or what all of this means, there's not much to say other than I'm excited we're getting more Witcher games and that there's going to be a lot more content, and I'm looking forward to it. The only thing I could really point to is that I can't help but notice that there is a market shift in this desire to have one game that does everything, and instead they're moving towards smaller games and occasional spin-off titles that target a few players, or this player group that wants multiplayer, or this player group that wants like a mobile game. And then they also do these big releases over here, but like they sprinkle in these smaller games to appeal to different niches in the gaming community. And it's not just what CD Projekt Red is doing. Ubisoft recently hired a new guy, and I recently did a collab with Joraptor where we talked all about it. All of that linked below as well if you want to hear our thoughts on that new hire and everything he's doing to shake up their editorial process. A lot of companies are doing this now. I would much rather have like a spin-off Witcher game that has multiplayer, whatever that looks like, maybe Monster Hunter, but with a Witcher coat of paint. That could be fun. Who knows? I'm down to try it. But I'd rather have that, and then also like The Witcher 4, at least in spirit, of just everything The Witcher 3 did, but turned up to 11. I would love to see that, and then not risk screwing it up by promising too much or trying to do too much. And it seems like that's the lesson they've learned from Cyberpunk 2077, is that when you just throw out blindly, like, yeah, we're going to have multiplayer, and then we're also going to have like wall running, and then like all these ricochets and smart weapons, and we're also going to have the biggest world we've ever made, and like crazy impressive graphics and ray tracing. When they just overpromise because they're so ambitious, it's really easy to underdeliver. And I think they're learning that smaller, more focused experiences for players is going to serve everybody better in the long run anyways. So might as well make their lives easier and also keep the gamers happy. But all told, a pretty successful news event. I mean, I'm kind of about this. I appreciate the news, and I appreciate seeing all of this. I think it's cool, and I look forward to seeing these games whenever they come. Probably still like a few years out, but I'm intrigued. Yeah, because they said Polaris is probably the first game that's coming out of all of these that they announced, and they recently announced that it was in pre-production. So I would guess Polaris is still like 3-4 years out. And then the other games, that's going to start a 6-year timetable of when they want all of these other games coming out. So don't think that this is like, oh, next year we're getting the Witcher Polaris. No. It's still a ways off. But let me know what you think of all of this in the comment section below. I will be interested in hearing your thoughts. I'm also live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Probably soon we'll open up to doing it every single day of the week, but I'll keep you updated on that. And like I said, we're live here on YouTube. You guys voted, like 95% of you said you prefer YouTube over Twitch. So even though we were offered partner on Twitch, we're moving over here, getting off that sinking ship, and we're streaming on YouTube. So come by, say hi, hang out with us. I'd love to see you. But with that, thank you for watching. I love you all. I'll see you in the next one. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.